Shabbat Shalom. We're going to get ready to open up with prayer. Father, y'all, we come to you right now in the name of your son, Yahushua Mashiach, just thank you for this day. We just thank you right now for just being with us and leading and guiding us into our righteousness. We thank right now for teaching us to walk upright before you. We just bless you right now for this day that you have made. In the name of your son, Yahushua Mashiach, we pray. Hallelujah. Hey, y'all, we're going to be coming from the book of Revelations, chapter 3, starting off at the 14th verse, but we're going to give a little background on what we're going to be talking about. Yahushua Mashiach began to send to the messengers or to the actual ministers over these houses and these churches. It was the 7 churches of Asia. We're dealing with the last church, which is Laodicea. I think some pronounce Laodicea, but we're going to deal with it like here for what most people know of it as Laodicea. The church was rich in substance. We're going to kind of read a little background of what was going on with the church and why, Yahushua Mashiach had to actually let this church know that they needed to be humble. And so we're going to read a passage to give a background on Laodicea as a city and how rich they were in substance and everything they had going on. They had like a lot of bankers there and stuff like that. They prospered in knitting and wool and stuff of that nature. So we're kind of going to do a background reading on it, then we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to put a page up here that can kind of share a little bit of what we're talking about so we can kind of get into the history of Laodicea, and it'll kind of give you an idea of what's going on in Revelation 3 and 14 through 22. You got the Yahushua Mashiach is dealing with a pompous people, a prideful and arrogant people. They got so much stuff financially and so much stuff materialistically to the point where they don't really realize that they're spiritually poor and that they don't have the things that they need to sustain themselves to get into the kingdom of Yah. And so we're going to get into what kind of people were these that he was talking to at the time when we start reading the book of Revelation. So we're going to start reading the history of Laodicea, and we're going to kind of go through this so we can kind of let everybody kind of get an idea of what we're talking about, where we won't just start reading in Revelation, where you won't know why, you have a problem with them, because it's almost like they got so much to the point where they don't need Yah. So we're going to start looking at, if you guys can see the page, it's on here now. It started off saying Laodicea history, and we're going to start from that top and just try to get an idea of what was going on in this city.
The city became part of the kingdom of Pergamon and later passed into Roman hands in 133 BC. Caesarea, the famous Roman orator and statesman, served as governor of the province, residing mostly in Laodicea. Laodicea was a great center of banking and finance, according to Revelations 3:14-21. It was one of the wealthiest cities of the ancient world. When Laodicea was destroyed by an earthquake in 60 AD, they refused aid from the Roman Empire and rebuilt the city from their own wealth. One of the most famous cities of Asia, Laodicea, was in the same year overthrown by an earthquake without any relief from us recover itself by its own resources.
Okay, so basically right here, it's not in here now, but it is right here where they refused to help. They didn't need the help from the Roman Empire. They had so much. This city was built on an actual water source. I think it was like a river, a lake or a river was built on, but they turned down the money of Rome because they had so much. And we know Rome has a lot of money. I mean, you have the Catholic Church, connected to Rome and everything. So it's like what you have going on here. They have so much money that they don't even need money from the one who got pretty much all the money. So they're pretty much doing their own thing. They don't need any help or anything of that nature. They got all the resources they need. So they're able to bounce back on their own. So you can imagine somebody that's got this type of pull and this type of financial success, humbling themselves. It takes a lot when you got to this degree to actually humble yourself and realize that you can't do it all without, some type of help. So they didn't even need anything. They were just rolling. Go ahead.
The city was at the crossroads of north-south track between Sardis and Perga, and east-west from the Euphrates to Ephesus. Laodicea quickly became a rich city, rich enough to be able to rebuild itself without outside help after the destructive earthquake of 60 AD. And common with many other Hellenistic cities, there was a prosperous colony established there as well before the so-called Christian era. The city's reputation was for its money transactions, and the good quality of raven black wood was grown in the area. Laodicea was the first city in Anatolia importing textile products made of quality knitting wool to the Roman Empire. Laodicea was also a great center for the manufacturing of clothing. The sheep which grazed around Laodicea was famous for the soft black wool they produced. Laodicea was also well known for its school of medicine.
Okay, so basically the point I'm trying to make is that they had everything, they were producing everything, they actually had this school of medicine. So everything that they're having, but as you start getting into a lot of this, I don't know if they really said this in here, the water sources was horrible. They didn't have good water sources. They had to get water imported in through a channel. And so they had to get water from Colossae and Hierapolis. So Hierapolis had actually, I think there was like 6 miles north of them, they had actually hot water and hot springs, and Colossae had the cold water. And so when those waters get to them, it's pretty much lukewarm, even though I know that's kind of, reaching, but that's pretty much the case. We know that their water source was not good. And so when we look at this here, we see that now everything that's going on with them, they're producing it themselves. So they feel like they don't need anybody, but they did need that water to be channeled in because their water was horrible. Go on. I think you're on after the school of medicine.
One of the principles of medicine at that time was the compound diseases required compound medicines. One of the compounds used for the strengthening the ears was made from the spice nard or spikenard. Galen says that it was originally made only in Laodicea, although the 2nd century AD, it was made in other places also. Galen also described the medicine for the eyes made of Phrygian stone. Aristotle spoke of it as a Phrygian powder. Ramsay tries to explain what kind of medicine it was by saying it was not an eye ointment, but a cylindrical collyrium that could be powdered and then spread on the part affected. The term used by John in Revelation is the same that Galen used to describe the preparation of the Phrygian stone. Okay, but not these medicinal concoctions be a reason why.
You do the principal deity
John
worship.
cautions the Laodiceans to buy ointment for your eyes. I can't
Okay.
read it, for your eyes. All right, keep going.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know you was controlled by my page.
The principal deity worshipped the Laodicean at that time was the Phrygian god Men-Karu, the Kyrian man. In connection with the god's temple, there grew up a famous school of medicine, which followed the teaching of Hierapolis, who began administering compound mixtures to his patients on the principle that compound diseases require compound medicine. There was 2 doctors who were famous for them, and their names was in the city. It was Zexius and Alexander.
So you see, they had deity worship going on there. So that's why we're going to get into some scriptures that's going to talk about the Apostle Paul, how he had a struggle trying to deal with them because it was like a lot. He cared about them a lot, but they had so much influence around them to the point where it was hard to hear somebody from the outside to come in and explain that you need Yahushua Mashiach. This isn't enough, even though you have riches, it's not enough. So it's like they had everything. It was like they didn't need nothing but their own compound, their own city. Everything was set up where they had medicine, so they didn't need anything from doctors. So it's like they had the money, they had all the factors, they had bankers was around there. So that's why they was able to bounce back so quick because of everything that was going on. They dealt with it. They was actually just distributing everything out to Rome. So that's why Rome offered to help them rebuild the city, and they turned the money down. We don't need your money. We're big enough to do it ourselves. So, and that's what we have going on. We have a pompous, prideful, arrogant group of people here.
The hot springs at Hierapolis, just 6 miles across the Lycus River Valley and to the south, are probably what John had in mind when he spoke of the lukewarm water. This is this guy's speculation.
Yeah, speculation.
Revelations 3:15-17. No other city on the Lycus Valley was as dependent on external water supplies at Laodicea. Water was also piping through an aqueduct from Colossae.
Now, this is what I was talking about. The water piped in through the aqueduct is what I'm kind of pointing on, not what the guy speculated on, because regardless, the water was coming to them. They didn't have the water source like they needed. And we know that based on this scenario here, that they had to get it from somewhere else, because I was looking up aqueduct, and it's actually a channel in which you actually bring water in. And so therefore they had to get water, brought to them. About the idea of what was going on with the Laodiceans, for it's like how much they had going on. They had everything they needed. We see that they was a well-established city. They had bankers there. Of course, when the earthquake hit, eventually an earthquake took them out. You keep looking into the history of them, but during that time when they were thriving, they turned down the money from Rome. Rome had pretty much all the money like that. So if they had more money than Rome, then you know they had it going on. If they didn't have more money, then they had enough to do what they needed to do without their money, like that. So basically the Laodiceans were pretty much just, they was on top of the mountain. They didn't need anything from nobody, and they didn't need anybody's help. So imagine being in a position like that. You're thriving and everything is fine. It takes a lot to stop somebody like that, to get a moment to listen and say, okay, look, I see I got all this stuff, but now I need something else to go with it. And this is what's going on. I mean, they had everything they need, but as you begin to see what's going on, as we read, we'll see that it wasn't enough. So we're going to look at, before we get started into the scripture, we're going to be coming from Revelation 14 through 22 is where we'll be coming from. But we're going to look at Revelation 1, 2, and 3 first before we get to that one, just to get a concept of when you even read and receive the prophecy of this actually book here, you begin to be baruched by the Most High. So let's look at Revelations 1, 2, and 3 first, and then we'll get into the scripture.
Okay, Revelation chapter
1, verse 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. The revelation of Yahushua HaMashiach, which Elohim gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant Yochanan, who bore record of the word of Elohim and of the testimony of Yahushua HaMashiach and of all things that he saw. Blessed is he that reads, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and guard those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand.
So basically said, Barak, blessed is he who reads, and those who hear the words of this prophecy, and guard what is written in, for the time is near. And so basically this was going on. So basically, according to that right there, I would always read that you get a blessing just for actually, receiving what you hear, what you're hearing in this. You're reading and hearing it. So we're going to get into what we were just looking at about the Laodiceans without jumping straight into Revelation. So y'all kind of got to bear with me. I don't really like coming from my own personality. I kind of like to break things down so we can kind of get the meat of things. So before we jump right into Revelation, which is going to be Revelation 3, 14 through 22, we're going to look at some of the Laodiceans in the actual scriptures prior to getting to Revelation. So let's look at Colossians chapter 2, starting off at the first verse, and you're going to stop at the 4th verse. And this is Paul, expressing his compassion to the Laodiceans. And he's expressing this compassion to them through the Colossians. He's sending word, letting them know, what's his thoughts concerning them.
So you said
Colossians chapter 2. It's the book of Colossians. It's going to be chapter 2, starting at the 1st verse.
Colossians chapter 2, verse 1. For I would that ye know what great conflict I have for you, and for them at Laodicea, and for as many as have not seen my face in the flesh, that their hearts may be comforted, being knit together in love, and into all riches of the full assurance of understanding, to the acknowledgement.
Did you skip the Laodicea?
Yeah,
I didn't hear it.
At the beginning.
Oh, okay. You always say, oh, good. You good.
That their hearts might be comforted, being knit together in love, and into all riches of the full assurance of understanding, to the acknowledgement of the mystery of Elohim and the Father of Mashiach, in whom are hid all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge.
I can hear that. I mean, read the 4th.
And in this I say, lest any man should beguile you with enticing words.
I was just reading different. That's what's going on.
Yeah, I'm in the season.
Okay. All right. So basically this is Apostle Paul sending actually word to the Laodiceans through the Colossians. So he's just letting them know that there's a struggle that he had for them, because he knows what's going on. if you look at what we just read and you see how prosperous these people are, you can imagine how it is with an apostle trying to get his word across to them, because first of all, they got so much stuff, they don't really feel like they need to hear that anyway. So, but he's still showing his compassion. So Paul's compassion doesn't mean that they were doing the right thing and everything was going well. It's just how he is as a person. So we looked at how they had everything going for us, like in the letter, how that they're striving. So that's why he's saying to let no one, deceive them with enticing words. And this is the thing, when you actually got a lot of stuff going on, you kind of got to set yourself aside and begin to hear Yah, especially when you start getting money and stuff like that. You kind of got to put yourself in position of say, okay, what do I need to be doing? We can't let, the fact that we got something take the place that, that we need Yah. This is the thing. So you can have somebody with money that has Yah. You can have somebody without money that has Yah. Having money doesn't mean you have Yah, and not having it doesn't mean you don't have them. It doesn't go that way. It just means that in everything you have, you need to be humble, be content, and make sure that you let him lead you with what you have and not allow it to blind you from him. And this is what we have going on. The Laodiceans was allowing the riches that they had to blind them from Yahushua HaMashiach. And so we look at that. Let's look at Colossians chapter 4. It's going to be two more. So go to Colossians chapter 4, verses 15 and 16. Yeah, 15 and 16. And basically, this is just Paul once again greeting the brothers that are in Laodicea. What we're showing you now is that, this church here, like I say, it's actually thriving, and the Most High is concerned about them because of what's going on. So Paul is staying at them. He keeps sending word. This is another time you see him just sending word, greet them, you know what I'm saying? Let them know.
No, sorry.
So it's going to be Colossians chapter 2.
4, 15, and 16, or 2, 15?
Okay, we did that one. Colossians chapter 4, 15 and 16.
Greet the brothers in Laodicea, in Nymphas, and the assembly that is in his house.
Pause it there. So you see what we're trying to get the point across. We're not just reading. It say, greet the brothers that in Laodicea. And then this one say Laodicea in mine. It say a Nymphas and the assembly in his house. So we're trying to put emphasis on this part where he's greeting them. He's letting them know, like I say, look, I'm concerned about you. And he's letting them know that, just because you got all this going on, the Most High didn't just push you to the side. So he's letting them know, greet the brothers that in Laodicea and Nymphas and the assembly at his house. Go ahead.
And when this letter is read among you, see that it's read also in the assembly of the Laodicea.
Stop there. So he's saying when this letter is read among you, see that it's also read in the assembly of the Laodicea. The point I'm trying to bring across is that there's a press that's coming to the Laodicea. He's trying to say, look, make sure they hear this too, because they need to hear it. And this is what I'm trying to get. He that has ear, let him hear what the Ruach is saying. Make sure they hear it too. That's what he's saying. Make sure they hear it too. Don't just read it yourself. I need you to make sure they get the word. You saw earlier where he was talking to them. Now he's talking to them again. When this letter is read among you, make sure that it's read also in their assembly, because they need to hear it. Go ahead.
And that you likewise read the letter from
and see what they got going on. So he wanted a line of communication to be given to them, and then he wanted a report back from them so they can actually compare what's going on. We're going to get to why I'm reading this, because I don't want to just jump to Revelation and you start saying, who is this church and where did they come from? Well, we just looked over the history of the Laodiceans, how rich they were, everything they had, and how prosperous they were. So after seeing all this that you just saw, when you put yourself in the mind of the Apostle Paul talking to them, he's saying, look, I want to know what they got going on. He's saying, I want to likewise let you know, tell them what you got going on. Read this letter to them that I'm sending. Make sure that you stay in communication with them, because the Ruach already knows later on it's going to be a problem. At this point, the problem is not showing there's no problem exists. But when we get to Revelation, it's going to see that they're the last church, and they're the one that's pumped up in pride. Go ahead.
That was 14.
Mm-hmm.
16.
So that's it there. So basically, this is just basically that was just the Apostle Paul just talking to them, letting them know, to actually reach out to the Laodiceans like that. So we want to kind of just give some background on what was going on, just a little snippet of the Laodiceans prior to getting to Revelation. We looked at the history and saw how they were thriving, how they were pretty much just rich and prosperous and everything. So they didn't need anything financially from the Most High. They didn't need anything. I'm surprised they were even able to hear anything that the apostle said, because if you look at the history of it, most of them were dealing with false deities. They weren't dealing with, like you read throughout the scripture, how most of them would even serve like the statue of Princess Diana and all kind of stuff. So it was a lot of false idols going on, or worship of false idols back then. So at this particular point in time, he's actually having to beat through the bushes trying to get their attention, because most of them are probably given over to idol worship at this point in time. And so basically we want to look at that. We looked at the history of the Laodiceans, and we saw how rich they were. We saw that everything they needed was right there in the city. They didn't even need the money from Rome when the earthquake came in to actually destroy the city. They built it back up on their own with their own money. And so we're going to get now into what we were wanting to look at, which is Revelations 3. In Revelations 3, now that we got the background on the Laodicean, we see now who is Yahushua Mashiach talking to? What is he showing John the Revelator? What's going on? Why are they sending this letter to the head or the messenger of this assembly? Why is there a problem? And this is what we see. The background of that shows you. Now, once we get in Revelation, you can kind of keep in mind of what we looked over, and now you can read this with more clarity and say, okay, now I understand why there's a problem with this particular church. Why is there a letter being written to them? And that's what I wanted to get to. Most of the time when people start reading and they just start reading your scripture, you don't understand where it come from or what's going on. But we went over the history of how rich and prosperous that the Laodiceans were. And so now we're going to look at Revelations 3, and we're going to start off at that 14th verse, and we're going to get into, go ahead. Yeah. Okay.
And to the angel of the called out assembly of the Laodiceans, right? These things says the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of Elohim. I know your works, that you are neither cold nor hot. I would you were cold or hot. So then, because you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew you out of my mouth.
Stop there. Okay, so he's saying, I know your works. He said, I wish you were either cold or hot. But since you're neither cold or hot and you're lukewarm, he said, I'm going to spew you out of my mouth. And this is the thing. So this is the problem here. It's like you have a situation going on where at this particular point in time, it put me in the mind of somebody that's pretty much going through the motions. And they're doing what we would call playing church. Like they go to the assembly one way, and it's like you see them there, and it's like, oh, shalom, or a blessings, brother, if you're in the Christian church or whatever it is that's going on. And then when they leave out, it's a different scenario going on. It's not even the same person. That's a lukewarm person. Like whatever way I approach you, if I'm out in the store or somewhere like that, you should be in that same route when I see you, in the assembly. It should be the same thing. It shouldn't be a different individual. I shouldn't be getting somebody different, like some schizophrenic situation going on. Like one day you're on fire for the Most High, and the next day it's like, who is this character? Like, what are they doing? They're doing something that's not even of the Most High. It's like they're carrying on in a whole different manner. A different spirit is going on. This is what's not supposed to be happening. When you see this going on in an individual's life, what you have is a person that don't have a relationship with the Most High. This person has not received Yahushua Mashiach and the Ruach HaKodesh to actually show them how to walk their life out. And so we're dealing with lukewarm spirits. We're dealing with people that have not made a choice. It's like when you begin to just try to do your own thing, and then you have that lukewarm spirit, there's a scripture that talks about them giving you over into a reprobated mind in the book of Romans, and start to give you over to those things that you would seem to do that's right. Like the scripture say, there's a way that seems right unto man, but the end of it is destruction. That's why I said, in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he would direct thy path. And so you don't want to do your own thing. You want to let things get to a point where now you begin to cover things up. So I can see through these lukewarm spirits. When I see somebody and I say, okay, now I'm getting a different person. I know, like, if I'm tripping, it's like, I know, but it's like most of the time how you run into somebody, it's like, okay, man, just last week, they was talking about the Most High. Now they're looking at zodiac signs and all kind of other stuff, talking about different stars and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, what they got into now? And this was going on. Like, you're not going to be able to do both of them. Like, you can't bring a lot of stuff over into this walk just because it's not the Christian church. You can't just start incorporating all kind of stuff in here that's not of Yah. That's the thing. And see what it is, most people have threw away everything. It's like we come into the walk, instead of actually walking upright, seeking the Most High, finding out who we are and getting into the scripture and seeing how we supposed to live, they're incorporating other lifestyles. Like you got people incorporating all kind of astrology and all kind of stuff. I mean, I've seen a lot of it. I don't really know the name of a lot of this stuff I've seen. I'm like, this isn't of the Most High. You know, you got people that are meditating on stuff that's not even have nothing to do with the word. They're just meditating for stuff. And it's like they're getting stuff, but they're not getting the Most High. They're meditating, and it's like yoga going on and all this stuff here. You know, I'm not saying, like, I can't say to the extent of how much yoga is like Hasatan and that, but I'm just saying it don't supposed to take the place of Yah. You're supposed to be doing something for a result and reaching out to something outside of Yah to get no type of result. If you use something to get a result on the outside of Yah, you lukewarm. That's what's going on. So you can't use some other deity or some other essence. I don't need to burn no candles or do anything to get the presence of Yah to come in. And that's what we have going on. Like a lot of people walking in a sense where they're saying, hey, look, I'm in the truth, but at the same time, I got this going on. Like I got these stones in my pocket. They're gonna bring me good fortune. Like, where did this come from? Like, why I need stones or crystals to bring me good fortune? I don't need nothing like that. So I'm not saying this stuff is evil, but if you use this stuff in the place of the Most High or in the place of him blessing you, that's what makes it evil. When it's saying this is a candle of light and it's supposed to be for a blessing, then it turns into sorcery. It turns into witchcraft at that point, because now you put something up and you're saying this is your energy source. You're saying this is what's going to supply you power. And it's not supposed to be that way. And that's what's going on. You know, most of the time I see in this walk, I see a lot of wicked stuff going on. And it's lukewarmness. So there's no way you can actually say I'm in the walk and then operate in these ways too. It's like you operate in another spirit. And so the word says, if he that come you preach any other gospel other than this, then let him be accursed. Don't receive it. And so you shouldn't be even bidding these people Yah's speed. Not even telling them Yah bless you. If they're operating in this manner, that's not supposed to be in agreement with your spirit and theirs. They're supposed to know that you disagree with what they're doing. And that's when you take a stand for Yah, when you see something that you question or deem to be, you know, unrighteous, basically. So we're getting into the Laodiceans. Anybody got anything? I know most time I can't. The Bible don't say much with me, but if y'all got some, I don't want to overtalk. Oh, okay, so basically they just need to actually be one way or another. They need to make up their mind. And so that we get to the part where say, I'll bump you out. We got to that part. Okay, so yours says your guys got different things. Okay, so basically we're gonna get in and look and see what Joshua says. So it's like, I know that he'll make up your mind. Like you need to choose who you're gonna serve. Are you gonna choose Yah? Serve Yah. If you're gonna serve idols and all these candlesticks and crystals and all this stuff I see coming to the kingdom that's not of Yah, then serve that stuff. But our brother Joshua is going to tell you who he decided to serve. Let's look at Joshua chapter 24, and I think it's at the 15th verse. And so I like to turn y'all so we can get an idea of what's going on and why you need to choose rather than just try to. You can't just walk in the middle. We call it straddling the fence. You can't just walk that line and just say, okay, let the chips fall where they may. It doesn't work that way. If you choose, you're going to get into the kingdom. There's no way you're not going to get in. You make that choice. Make that choice and choose who you're going to serve. Serve him. Don't serve anything different. If it's questionable, put it to the side. Find out what's going on. The scripture said, all that get an understanding. So it's not like back in church when you just do it anyway because the pastor said do it. You have an option. You have a right, a choice, a free will choice to say, I'm going to find out whether this is evil or whether this is righteous. And so this is what we have to know. So if you have something you don't understand, don't deal with it. Don't, if it's a question that comes up in your route, don't deal with it. Just say, okay, look, I'm gonna set this to the side until I see whether or not this is evil or whether or not this is righteous. And that's what we have to deal with here. It's gonna be Joshua 24 and the 15th verse. And
Yahushua 24:15.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
oh yeah, I know we're gonna read it different.
And if it seem evil unto you to serve Yahuwah, choose you this day whom ye will serve. Whether the Elohim which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the Elohim of the Emorym, in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve Yahuwah. Same here. And that's what Joshua said. As for me and my house, we would serve Yahuwah. And that's the thing. So you have to make that choice. Who you going to serve? You and your house, or you going to serve Yah? Because this is the thing. We can't just say we're serving Yah and then do other stuff, because it's not going to work. You have to serve Yah in deed. It has to be done through action. You know, it has to be done through, it can't be done through a verbal saying, hey, look,
this stuff we see, shalom, and all this, that's fine. But when you get through with all that, are you really serving Yah? And it's the thing, like the basic fundamentals of just realizing that it's through him that you live and that you breathe and have your being. It's through him that you even merely exist, to get the chance that woke you up this morning, that, like they say, started you on your way. You can't do this stuff on your own ability. Some people did not make it on this side today. They're on the other side. They didn't wake up. So this is the thing. So that's a blessing within itself, just the mere fact that you open your eyes up this morning. And a lot of them can't even see that. So it's like a lot of pumping stuff. So we're still dealing with the church of Laodicea. So it's like a lot of pumping stuff. They had done so much on their own to the point where they didn't need Yah. So it's like after they had got successful on their own, they didn't even need help from Rome or nothing. So you can imagine how the Apostle Paul is trying to get through to them, and what it is like a brick wall he's trying to break through just to get through to them, and yet he's still having compassion. And the reason he's having compassion, because once you get to a point where you know Yah as a minister, your conscience is to a point where you know that the end all be all to this person is the fire of hell. Whether people want to believe it exists or not, that's where you wind up at. That's the last judgment. It's like, it's going to happen. A lot of people are trying to just say, well, hell is whatever you make it or whatever you believe it is, your worst. Now, it's none of that. It's a place of fire. I mean, hell is going to be cast to a lake of fire and brimstone, but hell is a place of punishment. And so you have it later on, hell is going to be cast into the lake of fire. But the point is, you wind up in that lake of fire. And the apostle knows that in the end, that's where they're going to wind up at. So he's not just passively talking to them. He's letting them know, look, when we read in Colossians, he said, greet those brothers that are there. He said, let them know what I have said. And then likewise, read that letter. He wanted a line of communication because he know the end is not going to be good for him. That's the thing. So it's not just about when you see an individual and you say, okay, well, this person here, they look like they're doing okay. Most times people are not doing okay. It's like because you have this facade that you put on, it's like everybody, the answer is, I'm blessed. Like in church, it'd be like, I'm blessed and highly favored, moving on toward the Lord, and no desire to look back, just a bunch of lies. Most of the time, those people are going through stuff. They need you to pray for them. They just won't announce it because people, the pride that's in people, make them feel like, no, I'm straight. I got it. I don't need no help. And that's the same thing happening in this church right here. They say, no, we don't need anything from you, Rome. We have it. Rome knew they needed it, but they did it on their own just so they can say, okay, look, we got it. And they're going to, even if they didn't have it, I don't think they would have reached out to them, because it's a level of pride that exists when you start getting certain finances and stuff. And that's the thing, no matter where I get at, whatever source I'm using to get money, of course it's going to be in the right way under the Most High. I'm not going to get beside myself to the point where I know that I believe that I don't need the Most High, because there are some things money can't buy. Money can't buy health. I mean, you can go to the doctor and no matter what goes on, but certain things takes wisdom. That's the thing. And sometimes you can say, okay, well, I have this, I have that. But if you don't have the proper knowledge, then you won't be able to obtain what you need. It just can't. It can't buy life. That's the thing. No matter how much money you got, it can't bring a loved one back. So it's a lot of stuff that, benefits that you have when you actually choose this day who you're going to serve, like Joshua said. And he decided to serve the Most High based on the fact that he was there from the beginning. Remember, during the actual war that was going on, you had him and you had Caleb there. When the reporters came back, Joshua and Caleb were the one that came back with the good report. So just as Moses did, so did Joshua do. He was the successor of Moses, and he led the people on to continue that mission out. And so he was there. Joshua was so fired up for the Most High to the point where when they were fighting a battle, it said in the scripture, it talks about the captain of Yahuwah of hosts that had the sword drawn. And Joshua asked him, he said, are you for us or are you against us? He let him know, no, I'm not against you, but I'm here as captain of Yahuwah of hosts. He bowed down and began to worship at that point. He was ready to take him out. Anybody that was against the Most High, I know now we're not in physical war against anything, but I'm saying for us, like at that point in time when they were, he questioned, he said, who are you? He wanted to know whose side are you on at that point in time. He said, are you on our side or are you on another side? And at that point, Joshua was ready to get him, but he backed off when he saw that this man was righteous. This is just how much he was sold out for the Most High. And so we looked at that. Let's look at Matthew chapter 6 at the 24th verse. So we're still dealing with choose this day, make a choice. We're dealing with not being lukewarm. That's what we had in this particular book here in Revelation chapter 3. And so we're dealing with making a decision, making up your mind, who are you going to serve? Because that's what it takes not to be lukewarm. Like, you're going to be lukewarm if you hadn't really decided whether you fully want to serve Yah now. If you're still trying to try him out, can't date him, you got to go ahead on and just go and make it official. That's the thing. And so if you make it official at that point in time, you don't have a lot of things to actually worry about concerning your salvation. You're going to go through things on this earth, but it don't mean that you won't make it into the kingdom just because you're going through something. And so we're going to look at 6 and 24. I don't have it yet. Let me see. Y'all got it? So it's going to be Matthew 6 and 24. I got it.
No man can serve two above all, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve Elohim and Mammon. That's
right. And no, mine said no one is able to serve two masters like that. So basically it's like you can't serve both. Like you got to serve one or you got to serve the other. It's like you can't serve Yah and money at the same time. It's like basically what I'm trying to say is if you're in Yah, some things you don't do for money. That's the thing. It's like you have to look at it. You have to operate in a certain level of integrity where certain things, there's a cutoff point which says, look, I know I need money, but I'm not going to do this to get the money. So it has to be some guidelines that you have to have. You have to set up some boundary lines to say, I don't go past this in order to receive finance. And this is the thing we have to look at as a people, because I know trials and tribulations come, we have a lot of hardship, but certain times you have to say no to this particular thing. No, I can't do this for the money. I'm not going to do it. Certain individuals or whoever it is, that may be an influence, and that you have around you that may have it. You have to say, look, now this individual is not worth having a relationship with for the money. What it is, it's like you have to just make a choice, because if you're greedy and you're doing something for the money, this goes for workplace and all kinds of stuff. I believe that the Most High opened up another door for you, even on a job. If it's a job that's stressing you and grieving you to a point where if it didn't bring the peace and you've been praying and reaching out to the Most High about it, then he'll open up the door for another. Not saying you won't have things there, but you don't have to actually do things that are against your ruach for the money. Like we're not bound like that. Like if you have a certain mission that the Most High got you on, that's different. And you're there and you need to complete a mission, and somebody you're trying to, deal with, and he got you doing something, that's different. But if that's no mission and you just got something that you're supplying your needs with, he'll open up another door financially. You don't have to do something just for the money. That's the thing. And this is what we have going on, because at that point, if it's a lot of things going on that's compromising your spirit, you begin to serve mammon at that point. And you're not serving Yah. So you done made a decision, no matter what my job say, I'm going to do it. They say, look, I got to take the job, whatever it is like that. Then you saying, okay, I need this money, so I'm doing it. Now you're doing it for the money. If you know this is against your ruach, because, I'm not going to get into a lot of stuff, because personally, that's different from what I'm hearing the mark of the beast versus what I see going on. But then there's a moral and a thing that's not moral. So it's like I'm looking at, I know that how everything is set up, I know that not to trust certain things that I see that's presented to me. I know that. I know certain things I don't need to put in my body, no matter what we call it, whatever kind of mark you want to call it, whatever. At the end of the day, if it's not good, I'm not going to insert it into my body. It's the thing. So if you're someone they're forcing you to do something, then this can't be where the Most High wants you to be at. He don't want you to go against and violate your human rights just to do something, just to get finance. So at that point, if you do that, you're actually serving mammon. You're not serving Yah. And that's the thing. You can't serve both of them. It gets to a point where as a crossroad, you have to make a decision. Now this job then got into the place and got into interfering with my relationship with Yah. So now I need to let it go. I need to find something else. I need to look for something different. And it's not going to come out of the sky. Just as hard as you want to find something, that's just how hard you got to look for it. And you got to look and pray and keep on seeking. And the Most High eventually open up that door for you where you can actually have something that doesn't have you going against what you feel is right and what you feel is, righteous toward Yah. And so we're looking at this here to say that you can't serve both. And that's just one example. We have to look at it in all kind of ways, like some of the other stuff we talked about. If you hold on to anything like rabbit foots, anything like that, you can't have that stuff and have Yah too. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be able to go see, Madam Susu or whoever it is and get your tarot card finger read and all that stuff and he said, don't go to them. He said, if you want to hear a word, I'll bring a prophet among you. Or you look at this word and you begin to seek him, but you don't supposed to go to those that are operating in familiar spirits to get information. If you do that, you vex your own spirit up. At that point, you open up the door for other ruachs to come in and begin to encamp and set up camp inside of you and cause disruption inside of you. you defile your body. Anybody got anything? Y'all got anything? Yes, all is good, you baby. Okay, so basically we was dealing with this right here, dealing with making a choice. You can't serve Yahuwah and you can't serve wealth at the same time. So let's look at James chapter 3, starting off at the 10th verse. We're gonna read 10, 11, and 12, may stop periodically. James chapter 3. So we're gonna look at James chapter 3, and we're still dealing with making a choice. We're still dealing with not being on both sides, can't be on Yah's side and on the enemy side at the same time. It's not gonna work. Like there's going to be a conflict of interest, not going to work. So James chapter 3, 10, 11, 12. All right. I got it. So it'll be James chapter 3, starting off at the 10th verse.
Out of the same mouth proceeds blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not so to be. Does a fountain send forth at the same place water, sweet water and bitter? Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries, either a vine, figs? So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh?
Okay, so basically, so he's just saying out of the same mouth proceed blessing and cursing. Why are these things so? So it's like, one moment, it's all peace. The next moment is all, damning me to hell. I mean, it's like, so it's like, you have to look at this for what it's worth. You have to make a choice and you have to say, and then you don't want to be double-minded either, because the scripture talks about a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. You have to make the choice. If you believe in Yah and he showed you something, stick to it and it's going to come to pass. If you know this is what he showed you, it's going to come to pass. Don't waver with it. You have to have a sound mind. Your mind has to be made up not to be double-minded. Your mind has to be made up not to do both of them. This is the thing. Choose this day who you're going to serve. That's why I looked at the brother Joshua. He began to say that for me and my house, we're going to serve Yahuwah. And so you can't do two things at once. That's what we're trying to say. You can't serve Yah and Mammon. You can't serve Yah and the world at the same time. Like you can't be in the world and, still try to be living for Yah. It's not going to work. Either you're going to be what we call worldly or you're going to be righteous, one or the other. So you have to make up in your mind, what are you going to do? Who are you going to serve? You're going to serve Yah, or you're going to serve that job? You're going to serve Yah, or you're going to serve the money? One or the other, because if you look at it, we're going to get to some scripture that's going to talk about what you need to do in order to be successful without trying to be on both ends, because he's going to open up a door if you just stay on one side. But if we see you bouncing back and forth, you just going to get your breakthrough or whatever. Now you can start back going over into something different. Like now you got your candles lit and your crystals and stuff, and you're in a circle all of a sudden. I mean, like that. So it's like all this nonsense has to stop. Like if you have the Ruach, he'll show you foolishness. You'll begin to know when something is off, when something is not right. Don't ignore it. We used to call it like a check in our Ruach. Like we begin to get a certain unction and we'll say, well, something is not right. And at that point, you'll know, okay, I'm questioning this particular situation, no matter what it is. When it's time to end things. Like if you're on the job and you get to a point where it's beginning to violate your rights in Yahweh, at that point, that's the end of that job. It's supposed to be a resignation that comes in. And if it don't come then, it's supposed to be coming soon. So you're supposed to be seeking Yah, fasting, praying, whatever you got to do to get that next door to open up. If he say just walk off, whatever he tell you to do, not me. Like whatever he say do, you have to do that, but you got to seek for a solution. The solution is not to stay in bondage and to let things take you from Yah. Same thing with relationships, same thing with, that's what we was talking about in general. Like people deal with people just for the money. People deal with people just for the fact of saying that they got somebody. It's not even worth it at that point, and pretty much just took your spirit down into the dump. Like most of the time, if something or somebody is taking you down, then they're not for you. They're supposed to add. Y'all supposed to be able to be dynamic together. Let's go for business relationship, personal relationship, whatever kind of relationship you got going on, friendship. It's supposed to be a certain level of peace there, a certain level of respect supposed to be there. If there's friction, that's the first telltale sign something is not right and something is off. You don't have to just do things just to do it. That's the thing. It's supposed to be a purpose behind everything. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything has a cause and it's an effect behind it. So when you make choices, then there's some consequences that come with these choices, which have repercussions to follow. like that. So you don't want to be in a position where you just compromise just to save face with somebody. Like I don't do it. It's like to a degree when I'm ministering, I can do certain stuff. I can talk to people and I know something ain't right. I know they're not for me. But if I totally know you're not for me, I'm not trying to build no relationship with you. Like that, I get the word across or do what I'm supposed to do or be obedient, but I'm gonna deal with you from a distance. If I'm dealing with somebody, they're in a circle of me, trust me, the Most High and spoke in some form and said that I'm supposed to be dealing with this person. Because, you know, my wife would tell you, if I call it monkey. If I see somebody monkey, I don't even deal with that. I turn the other way, I don't even deal with that. But if you monkey and the Most High told me to deal with you, I'll suffer with you. That's the thing. But I see through it, like, I mean, a mile away. It's just that, you know, some things you have to deal with based on the Most High, some stuff you don't have to deal with and you shouldn't be dealing with. And that's when you have to make that choice and find the strength in him to say, okay, look, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm just not going to do it. And that's what we have to do. Anybody got anything they want to say? Who all on here? See a lot of iPhone. All right, y'all, come on. You got anything? Y'all got any, y'all understand it, I guess. I mean, I'm doing all this talking here. Everybody mute. Okay, good. Oh, okay, I get it. Okay, so basically, we looked at that and we kind of just kept going, looking into a lot of stuff that was actually describing, making a choice, not being lukewarm, and certain things that cause you to be lukewarm. People, certain things you may be doing as a whole. And so you have to know when to back off and what things need to be incorporated in your life, what things need to exit out of your life. And that's the only way. Sometimes you're not even going to get the level of peace you need till you get rid of certain individuals and certain things. There are things that may be in your home that you may not even recognize that may be false idols or something like that. You know what I mean? One time we did a sweep looking through trying to make sure we have no idols or nothing like that going on. You have people have like a lot of whip knocks and stuff, and you don't know whether it's a false Elohim or something that they got going on. If you got this stuff in there, you know, it's going to be causing problems in your house because you're actually worshiping it without doing it because you bought it in your home. That's the thing. That's why it's important who you allow in your home too. Same thing with who you allow in your life, people that you have in your life. You have to make sure that this person has been approved, you know what I mean, by your Ruach, because if they're not approved, you don't have to continue dealing with them. You don't have to deal with them at all. You can say, look, how you doing? Keep it moving. Like a lot of people I run into, I know immediately that this is not going to work. I mean, like this just individuals I just meet. Some people I know it was for the moment. Some people I know, okay, yeah, this is somebody that I feel like, you know, I can build a relationship with, and I see things can kind of go from there. But when you see it's not, you can tell, because most of the time you have people that have disruptive spirits and their spirits are just so big to the point where it's just like poison venom. Every time you talk, it's totally negativity, constantly. That's you know, that's not of Yah. I mean, that's not of Yah, somebody that's constantly being contentious, you know, that's what actually causes you to actually go backwards. So what you do is you find yourself falling into some pity party with them or falling into some type of dump with them about everything that's wrong. They don't have no solutions. Most of the people just have a lot of gripe and a lot of complaining, but they don't have the solutions to the problem. It's just a lot of what all is wrong. After I heard what's wrong so much, I'm like, well, what are we going to do? And you never hear it. Sometimes I just listen and the person never explains what it is that they're going to do to try to fix the problem. It just gave all these scenarios of what's going wrong. And I hear that and I understand that, but okay, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to move forward or just going to keep telling me that? And that's what you usually get when someone is like that constantly and they never offer any solution. Most of the time, their spirit is, the Ruach in them is not right like that, because the Ruach is not going to lead you just to constantly complain and I never hear a solution out of your mouth. That's it. So, I mean, that's what you have to be careful. Though that's just an example of an individual that's, even though they're telling you that they're in Yah, they lukewarm like that. Just their manner of conversation describes them being lukewarm and not being somebody of Yah, because things that are of Yah are not doing that. Individuals that are of Yah are not doing that. Hey, the birds and stuff out there praising Yah and stuff. You have all kinds of stuff going on. So it's like people, I mean, the least we can do is just acknowledge the fact that he woke us up this morning. I mean, the fact that he just, you know, gave us breath in our body to have another day to challenge whatever situation that's going on. I had a situation going, I'm thinking, okay, well, as long as I got breath in my body, I got an opportunity to fix this because I woke up this morning. The situation was like trying to take me to a stress point and say, okay, look, I'm not going to stress about this. I'm just going, this is here to a point where I got to just say, well, I woke up this morning, I'm in my right mind. I can do something about it. I had to go to that level. Like when things get so bad, sometimes you have to just skip everything else that's going on, all the details, say, look, I'm here again today, and I know I have a solution for the problem through Yahuwah. That's it. Other than that, you wind up letting it take you into some type of dump, some pity party, and now all of a sudden you're stressing and everything is going on and you're not getting anything done concerning the problem, but it's causing problems inside of your body and it's causing problems with your health. And so you have to realize sometimes you have to get to a point and say, okay, look, this is it. I'm here today. We're going to figure it out. That's it. And sometimes you have to take a break from it, seek Yah and see what he needs you to do, put it on the shelf and come back to it and say, okay, now I'm going to come back to this problem. This is what I need to do to get this situated. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's like, we have to kind of focus sometime, I know we have problems, we have to focus sometime on the solution to the problem versus the problem, because we just let the problem just fester in our mind or whatever, then it starts overtaking us. And then the next thing you know, we're not even worried about the solution. We're so pissed off with the problem. So, but we're talking about not being lukewarm. So basically we're dealing with the church of Laodicea. So like I say, they were the last one he wrote to. And as he got to them, he began to let them know, hey, look, you don't have it all together like you think you have it all together. There's some issues that I see inside of you. And that's what he was showing them. So you have a lot of people that come off like this, even in this walk, they come off like, hey, it's this and that. And I say, man, it's like, because you don't watch it, you'll come from, I guess what they say, the frying pan to the skillet, whatever it is, like that. Either or like that. So it's like you come from out of the Christian church, and then you come into this, and there's some other type of religious organization going on. Now we have to minister to people and stuff like that, but you're not supposed to come from one bondage to another bondage, because a lot of this stuff I see mirrors the Roman Catholic Church, even though they're saying it's the walk, it's not the walk. I mean, it's just you getting into bondage all over again. That's what it is, it's a cult. I see a lot of cult activity going on in the so-called walk. So that's the reason why we can't even look at examples from a lot of this stuff, camps and anybody that's got all these compounds and stuff like that. You kind of got to focus on what the word is saying and walk it out based on what he said do. And if you get beside that, there's no example of all these camps that they done created, because we're not in, there's nothing wrong with it if it's going to help people, but if it's going to bring you into abundance, then it's something wrong with it greatly. At that point, it's detrimental to you. So you just got to look at it for what it's worth. Anybody got anything? Y'all good? Good. So where you left off at, you can kick back up on okay, so we read that. So we're gonna finish Revelations 3. I think we need to go to 17 now. So we're gonna pick back up at Revelations chapter 3, and at that 17th verse, we just finished talking about not being lukewarm and choosing this day who you're going to serve, whether it's going to be Yah, or whether it's going to be, y'all good? Okay. So it's going to be Revelation 3 and the 17th verse.
All right. Because you say, I am rich and increase with goods and have need of nothing, and know not that you are wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked, I counsel you to buy of me gold tried in the fire,
Okay.
that you may be rich, and white raiment, that you may be clothed, and that the shame of your nakedness do not appear, and anoint your eyes with eye salve, that you may see. Okay,
so you see what's going on. So basically, when you look at this for what it's worth, they saying they got everything, but he started telling them that they're poor, they don't have anything, and so they're wretched. They don't have anything going on concerning what they're mirroring. Like they're coming off to be one way, like they have it all together. But he said, no, even though you got some money, then you poor and ruach. You know what I'm saying? You don't have anything like that. You don't have what you need to be successful that can sustain you. So you can have all the money, but like I say, money can't buy health. It can't bring a loved one back. You can't buy a mind, you'll say, because a lot of people losing their mind. You can't put you in the right mind, just have money. You'll have it, but you have people that went senile, that's got all the money they need and left the money to a cat or something. I mean, like that. So like, so you have to look at it for what it's worth. You let them know, no matter what you think you got going on, I see that, he said, because you say that you're rich. That's what's going on. But you may be rich financially, but you're not rich in ruach. That's what he's saying. So you don't have anything at this point that's going to be laid up to you for you in the kingdom. So just because you're saying you got the finances don't mean you got what it takes to walk with me. You have not yet made the choice this day who you're going to serve. All I see is you showing me what you have and you using that. So this is what we have to look at, kind of like remind me when you see the preacher riding in a big Cadillac and all this stuff. Well, that don't mean that he got it together in Yah, because he come out looking like a pimp, you know, and got all this stuff going on, you know, like I'm thinking like, okay, well, I see this, but then when you don't have a ruach to actually discern things, what happens is you equate that to being successful in Yah because they have the finance, and it's not the same. It's a difference. A lot of them died with a lot of that stuff. I mean, look at, a lot of these people that we see out here that we know that lost their life that were ministering. A few big preachers I've seen that lose their life out here that had a lot of money, but they wasn't able to stop, you know, the spirit of death from taking them out of here. So it wasn't enough. So that's why you have this insurance inside of Yahuwah, that if you choose this day who you're going to serve, that's your insurance right there. And that's your life insurance right there. And not saying don't get physical life insurance if you get that, but I'm saying at that point, we know that your salvation is intact. You don't have to worry about going to the fire, the lake of fire and brimstone. You don't have to worry about, here it is, now you're in hell, and you wonder how you get here. Because this isn't it. You know what I'm saying? The scripture says, appointed unto man once to die. After that, then it's judgment. So you're going to be judged, and you're going to be judged based upon your deed. And so that's the reason why you want to make sure that once you make that choice, that you stay on this side, stay on the right side, because if you stay on the right side, you don't have to worry about what's going to go on, because you're not doing these things and entertaining all this stuff that's not of Yah. And so if you're not doing that, then you know if you do shut your eyes, then you know that your judgment should be successful rather than unsuccessful, because there are a lot of people that are deceived thinking that just because they've said this prayer, you know, in Romans, and they went before the altar and said, will there be one? And they joined the church. Now they're forever getting into the kingdom. It doesn't work like that. I heard the apostle say, "Let I myself be a castaway." This is Apostle Paul say, after all that I done did, if he can be a castaway, then you can be a castaway. So this one save, always save, do what you want to do type deal, that that's not true. Like if you start living unrighteous, that's why you have to continue in the walk. That's why he say, I press toward the prize of the mark of the high calling, which is in Yahushua Mashiach. There's no reason to do none of that if all you need to do is to pray and come up there and join the church. And this is what deceives a lot of people. They're thinking, okay, now that I've got into this assembly, I got this support of people, then I'm fine. Now, it's not enough just to show up at a building and say, okay, look, you know, you made it in today. That's not enough. You have to make sure that you're walking on the right side and that you're not entertaining things that are not of Yah and individuals that are not of Yah that can take you away from Yah. So we stop that. You keep going. Yeah.
So 19.
So Revelation 3:19, we're going to keep going to the 22nd verse.
As many as I love, I reprove and discipline. So be ardent and repent. See, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I shall come into him and dine with him, and he with me. To him who overcomes, I shall give to sit with me on my throne, as I also overcame and sat down with my Father on his throne.
Okay, so basically, say I stand at the door and knock. So he's knocking at the door of your heart to make that choice, to make the decision to do the right thing. This is the thing, the scripture talks about many are called, but few are chosen. But you can still be called into Yah, whether you're chosen or not. That's the thing. So we have to look at what's going on. You like I say, because when we get into the meat of things, we begin to look at if Yah is tugging at you, then you have to make that decision. Okay, what is he tugging at me for? Is it something I need to be doing? Is it something that I'm not, I'm not doing right, that I need to tune up on? There's a whole lot of things that you have to look at when he say, behold, I stand at the door. Now, he's basically wanting you to let him into your life and not have him on the back burner, put, him to the side and be like some part-time, situation, whether or not you call on him only when you need something. If you're walking with him constantly, when you need something, he'll be there at that point. So you won't have to worry about, calling on him because something has went wrong. Let's look at, we're going to kind of wrap it up a little bit. Let's look at Hebrews chapter 3 and the 15th verse. Hebrews 3 and the 15th verse. There you go.
Hebrews 3 and 15. While it is said today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as in the rebellion. For who having heard rebelled? Was it not all who came out of Mizraim led by Moshe?
So that's it, just 15.
Just 15, I'm sorry.
All right, so basically say if you hear his voice, harden not your heart. So today, if you hear his voice, harden not your heart. That's the thing. So he just said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man open up the door and let me in, I'll come in. Some scriptures say sup with him or dine with him. So this is what we're looking at right here. So we have to look at the situation of not hardening your heart to Yah. When Yah begin to tug at you and tugging at you, and you thinking, okay, I don't know what's going on or what's happening. Like a lot of us may wake up at night or may begin to feel a certain way, and he's just tugging at us in whatever way he come at us through certain people. You keep hearing certain stuff over and over again. And he's trying to tell you, if you feel that tug, or if he come to you in dreams, however he's coming to you, if he's tugging at you, don't harden your heart. Because if you harden your heart, then you get those results that they got. A lot of them kept hardening their heart back then in the wilderness when they were traveling. So we look at this for what it's worth. When the Most High is calling on you and trying to get you to switch up something or do something, we have to look at this and do inventory and say, are there things I need to get rid of? Are there things I need to add? And are there people I need to get rid of? Are there people I need to add? We got to figure out what we need to do and what recipe we need to make this right. How do we get in right standing with Yah? And ain't but one way. The first thing is to put away everything that you see to be wicked. And once you do that, then you start seeking him at that point. And you seek ye first the kingdom of Yah and his righteousness. I think that's Matthew 6, about the 33rd verse. Seek ye first the kingdom of Yah and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. So you don't have to seek stuff. I mean, if you seek stuff, then you're going to just get stuck. Like I say, one of my old sayings was they seek the blessing rather than the blesser. And so if you seek the blesser, the blessing will come to you. You don't have to worry about seeking for stuff. Seek what it said first, the kingdom of Yah, and seek to be righteous, and all the stuff will come to you. It'll all work out based upon what you're doing. And if you're seeking stuff, you'll get stuff, and stuff will corrupt you. Because at that point, you won't realize, okay, now that I got all this stuff, I still need Yah. And so that's what we have going on now. That's the end of this lesson. So if anybody got any comments, anything, we can kind of go from there with that. So just regular dialogue. Like you can move. So how y'all doing today? I guess everybody's soul is well with Yah.
Shabbat shalom, brother.
Shabbat shalom.
Y'all excuse me. I had a long work night and I'm just waking up. But I enjoyed the lesson. And I did want to comment on something earlier. It's just it was a lot of noise in my background and I didn't want to disturb y'all. But I will say you were talking about interacting with people that don't have anything to do but complain. Hey, pull them on. Silence is golden in situations like that. Like you got somebody coming up to you, only want to talk about what's not right in the workplace, not right in their home. A lot of the times, just like Yahusha, when the Pharisees or when they was coming trying to condemn a certain person or even Christ, he stood there and started drawing lines in the sand. Like he had nothing to say, and right. To me, the silence was golden because in my mind, I'm thinking it let them think about what they were actually trying to do. Because I get that all the time. People come up to me complaining, and I actually started to weary myself by trying to, help them out, which they never listen to the information.
They want you to complain with them. They want you to complain with them.
And that's so funny because they know that's not gonna happen because what I don't do nothing but talk good stuff at work. I'm talking about you would rarely ever hear me complain about anything because it's no reason to complain. Things could always be worse, so why complain? Shoot, if I'm at work and you complain about the job, guess what? The job could shut down. Then what you gonna complain about? Man, I ain't got no job. I mean, just think about it. Just enjoy life, live life, love life. But that's a situation where you can either say nothing, or just throw it back at them like, okay, so what you gonna do about it? You're complaining about the situation. Have you thought about a resolve for the situation that you're complaining about? But I just wanted to say that because you just never know who may be facing that situation on a daily basis, But good lesson though, brother. That lukewarm message should get people riled up, because a lot of times it make you look at yourself like, am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Am I lukewarm? Because I don't want to be spewing out of the mouth of the Most High. Hot or cold, that's really, really important right now, man, because you know what time we living in.
And that's what he told me. He said, you seek me not for me because you ate the fish and you got full. That's what Yeshua told me. You seek now because you got full. Brothers, yeah, it's saw the miracle. That's
it. Yeah. Yeah, and just being real with everybody and myself, a lot of times when I will be doing so well in the Most High, because and the reason for that was because I did so much seeking and pushing back the plate, so forth and so on. And then when things will begin to go bad for me, or I will begin to get lukewarm, is when I stop seeking. I end up getting blessed with the stuff, and then all of a sudden I'm back in another situation where, hey, he didn't show, but hey, I didn't look for that stuff. I got the stuff, but I lost track of what the Most High was, but he'll let you know. He already let us know what we should do to get back in line. Seek his face, separate yourself.